All right, so this session, really what we wanted to sort of talk through here is some parameters and configuration around warehouse management, around sort of performance and things to sort of watch out for, parameters to maybe go and look at, to configure and consider performance and management of the environment. So, so essentially, we're basically looking at parameters for a bit of time. So I've got some slides to talk about, and we'll get into that. If I can't switch back to my machine, then once it starts, I might sort of switch backwards and forwards. Hopefully that works okay. Otherwise, I'll do a hard reboot and then get back into it. So my name is Lachlan Cash. I'm in the engineering group with the supply chain team that builds Dynamics AX, or no, not AX anymore, Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation, so in the supply chain area. So I generally use this to talk about, context setting. So we're working in this area, so inbound logistics, outbound logistics, that's where our warehouse management is fitting in. So let's jump in and have a talk about some configuration. So the key here is talking about the receive processes, the shipping processes, the inventory processes in warehouse, and really some of the things that we've kind of learned, put in some fixes in some cases, but learnt where customers have run into issues. So that's essentially what we wanted to sort of talk through. So let's start with things to talk about in terms of process configuration. Obviously, we need to set up products, and products have things like variants, batch and serial numbers, things like that. So when we start to look at the configuration, you really need to look at both from an environment setup, but also from a usability perspective, what type of configuration that you need. So, for example, serial numbers. Is serial number really needed to be tracked in inventory, for example? Because once we turn inventory tracking on for our serial numbers, we start to generate a lot of transactions in the system relevant to those serial numbers. So obviously, each and every parameter builds on itself in terms of how we're configuring the system. So there's ways with the application to do, for example, serial number at shipping time, for example. So I don't really need to track it internally. If I just need to register that serial number that went to the customer, then leave it to the sales serial tracking, for example. So so each and every product attribute potentially has an impact on performance and usability of the system. So those are things that you need to sort of consider. Unit conversions. When we set up the item, obviously, we can configure the unit sequence group on an item. That's obviously used when we get into warehouse management, and determines the units that the operator is going to see on the warehouse mobile device, for example. So I'm going to do a hard reboot of my machine because it still hadn't started up. So if I stop, I'll try to multitask, but we'll see how we go. So units, we set up the unit sequence group on the product. And so, we have operator error. So if we set up the unit sequence group with defaulting, for example, each is to pallets, and for example, the default is a pallet, they could receive if, under and over tolerances are set up on items, receive or at least generate warning messages or error messages that's just going to cause them delays. So consider that whole sort of workflow through of, what's the effect of configuration in the item, what's the user going to see, and how do they interact with it. License plate numbering. So the license plate we need to sort of consider, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to sort of, for example, in transit. So you need to sort of consider the usage of license plates, both from an extra inventory piece of information that the system is tracking, and a usability perspective in terms of, do users really need to use the license plate? When are you going to use it? And so forth. So locations can be figured in the warehouse to not use license plate tracking. And so in some cases, you may not need to use license plate tracking, but obviously every different customer and every different process is going to be potentially different. But there are certain times where you might need to consider not using license plate tracking, for example, in transit warehouses, because there's no real need for it in transit. You just need it on the out and back in, for example. So we'll talk about those in a sec as well. Location directive codes. Location directives give essentially input to the configuration in locations, as they sound like they do. And so obviously the more coding, the more querying that we need to do in the system, the more work the system has to do. So really consider the configuration of things like location directives and usage of them, and how to potentially give hints to find the right location directives and how to speed up some of those processes. Order release processes. When we're considering how orders are released to the warehouse, we might want to look at the many different ways they potentially could be released. I could individually release a sales order from, if you're allowed that from security, from the individual sales order or the transfer, I can release that to the warehouse, for example. I could build a load and then release the load to the warehouse, so then the load's got multiple different lines on it. I can do an automatic release with the Weve processing. And so you want to consider the mix and match of these relevant to the work that you're going to feed into the warehouse and relevant to the performance of the system. So if you've got low volume orders and you pick by order, maybe releasing the individual sales order to the warehouse is efficient because you're going to pick it by the order anyway. So if you release it, that might be efficient enough. And I'll try to turn this off if I cough. So you want to sort of consider things like when and not to use things like the automatic release on the Weves. For example, in high volume scenarios where you've got set amount of Weves and you're going to do them in intervals, maybe an automatic release is good enough. Because you don't really need someone to essentially touch it. The Weve will be executed, the Weve will be released, and then work will be created, and then you can start to execute. So maybe that's okay in scenarios where you've got high volume and you can do them in intervals. The mix is what you need to look out for. Is obviously if you're doing an automatic Weve processing and we're releasing Weves, then that's a predictable amount of work that you can test at set intervals during the day. But if we're using combinations of different things, what we want to try to avoid is Weves and things like releases to the warehouse running at the same time, because obviously once those processes are doing, they're starting to loop through inventory transactions. That's when we potentially get performance issues. We potentially get things like locking and stuff like that. So we really need to consider the movement of work into the warehouse and coordinating the execution of processes as we go, for example. So one related to that is replenishment. And so there's a couple of different replenishment strategies like the max-min replenishment or the demand replenishment. So one of the things we'd suggest, if that can work for a business process perspective, is to consider as much as you can replenish. Replenish outside a normal Weve activity if you can, and use min-max to replenish based on those min-max intervals. And then where you need to, use demand replenishment to top up or to capture those exceptions, for example. Because we've seen customers use replenishment. Obviously, that's work to generate more work in the system for picks and puts and picking that needs to be done to move stuff around. And obviously, they start to clash if we're releasing work through Weves and doing replenishment at the same time. So something to sort of consider in that overall strategy of your pick face locations. If you do have a bulk to pick strategy or replenishing pick locations, how do those picking locations actually get replenished, for example, and just when do you do them, and how long can those pick locations last for in the normal sort of activity. And so essentially trying to break apart so that we're not trying to combine regular pick work with replenishment, for example. So wave processing, as I mentioned before, skipping the demand, utilize max min as we can. Utilize multiple wave processing tasks to improve performance. As I said before, you don't want to run them at exactly the same time, but you want to look at how do we sequence them. And instead of having one massive big wave, for example, that we're going to run in the morning, can you have smaller chunks of waves based on filters or, conditions that release certain types of work to the warehouse so that we're not having massive big waves running, because obviously a wave is essentially a long-running process. It's going to be creating work if we're going to auto-release at the same time. So if we can create a wave that's small enough to execute in a smaller amount of time based on filtering, whether that's a set amount of orders, a set amount of customers, types of customers, stuff like that, then we can get work done in incremental sort of chunks. But you will need to sort of balance that with what sort of grouping that you need based on the orders that you need to get out. So if you can match grouping of orders with filter criteria and things like that relevant to the waves, then you can have set waves for the type of work that you're going to try to execute. When we start to talk about inbound processes, for example, I mention this almost in every presentation, I think, when I talk about warehouse, but make sure we're testing setups. For example, location directives. Because we can put queries on location directives, we potentially could end up with a query that runs and returns no data. So in that case, you'll end up with work created in the warehouse with no put location, for example. Now that may be okay if the workers kind of know whether they're going to put the material. In some cases, we've got customers with many different dock doors on the warehouse, and the worker just knows based on where a particular driver or truck company turns up, therefore they typically know where to put that inventory. That might work okay. But in cases where you're really trying to drive a directed process through the system, having an empty condition where the system doesn't find a location, whether it's put away, whether it's outbound, whatever, that's going to cause some issue because the worker's going to try to execute the work. There'll be no location. You could have the parameters to allow them to put that location, but you want to try to avoid those conditions to just avoid the support calls and things like that. So understand where the inventory should go in the warehouse under ideal conditions, whether they can be met or not. We have situations where we use fixed locations, and there is a feature that we've got coming in the product to allow people to overload locations, for example. But consider that if you don't use volumetrics and the system's just going to find a generic location to put stuff away, the worker may not be able to put stuff into a particular location. So do you have an overflow location? So is that allowed to allow them to put stuff there? And then allow them to register that they've put in that overflow location. So if you do have that condition, you need to make sure that you have another location directive that when picking work is created, that it potentially can look at that overflow location. Otherwise, you're going to end up having to replenish the fixed location from that overflow location. So we need to look at kind of that movement of those overflow type conditions and the typical pattern, and then the overload or seasonality type conditions. And again, that's going to vary customer to customer based on their type of products. But we certainly have a lot of customers, and it's probably quite typical with most customers that you've got high moving, low moving type goods, and so typically the high moving type goods you potentially can have some seasonality in those where you might have bulk orders based on customer demand, where you need to stock them up for a particular order until that order's shipped out, for example. So we certainly have customers that do Walmart shipping, and so therefore, I can't undership the order, so I need to collect enough inventory until I have that order ready so I can ship it out, which may accumulate more than I typically need, for example. So we need to sort of consider, that overstock and where the inventory is going to go. Basically so that we can direct the user and we can configure the rules in the system to make sure the system's going to look at there. Otherwise, we'll end up with situations where if that stock's put away because the worker put in the overload, when we go to try to reserve, we'll reserve inventory, but the system won't actually generate work for that location if I don't have a location directive for it. So essentially I've got work that's reserved to be done, but the system's not going to find it. So we're going to have to correct work and stuff. So the processes of moving inventory and then document actions, and we'll talk about a few in a sec, but when we receive product for a purchase order, for example, I physically received the product in the warehouse, and then I have to go and do my product receipt, post my purchase order receipt, or run the batch job that does the purchase order receipt process, for example. So you need to consider when that receipt is going to be done in the warehouse. So those are obviously the goods will be there, but we've still got the background process that needs to be done. Now, does it need to be done at the same time the goods actually are there? If those goods are put away in the warehouse and they're not, you're not needing to sort of invoice and do the receipt if you do a three-way match, for example, maybe you can do a nightly run of receipts, for example. So then, you're offloading that extra posting in the system to a later time. So again, consider those different sequences of when documents need to be posted. Again, I tend to be, when I talk about warehouse, I always mention labeling, because there's so much variation of label and printing and activities around documents. Label printing, we have processes. So I can set up, functions in the mobile device. I can trigger a print when I go to do an activity. Those are quite convenient. The operator can trigger the print, and therefore, if they're at a pick station, for example, printer can print. I can attach it to a box if I'm picking, for example. But obviously, that time delay of execution, because it's got to get from, if you're running in the cloud, you've got to get down to the local printer. So the document routing functions, you need to make sure you've tested that process. So if you can, in some cases, if they're just typical sort of item labels or what have you, in some cases we've got customers, it's the same product, but they'll print a customer-specific label on it. And so if you can pre-print some of those, obviously that's more advantageous, so we're not having workers waiting, for example. So mobile. So mobile is obviously the user interface for all of the capabilities, for the typical warehouse worker. We do have the testing capability. If I want to use the web browser, there's a few different posts on it, but I can do, put a menu item there for, WHS work execute to test and use some of the mobile device functions in a web browser, for example. But there's a couple of links here in terms of if you want to build your own menu items, and we've got a lot of different customers that build their own menu functions. So on the mobile device, the user can click one process and it does a number of different things, for example. So you can certainly build your own menu functions. There's a couple of blog posts I've sort of called out here if you are going to do them in terms of the considerations and what it really takes to build a mobile device menu to do the configuration. So if you are going to consider those, we have customers that build, for example, Someone asked me in the last session, if you did attend my previous session, just came up at the end and said, what about QR codes and scanning barcodes? Well, we have the out-of-the-box scanning really just scans a particular barcode piece of data and puts it into the field in the mobile device form. So when you have QR codes or you have 2D barcodes, within that barcode you have a lot more encoded information. So by default, the form that we have in the mobile device is really only designed to scan one barcode and one piece of information. So we have had customers that built their own menu item, and therefore when they scan the 2D barcode or the QR code, for example, then it'll put it in one blob string, but then the menu function will do the parsing and split it up into the component pieces. So they can be done. We just don't have that out of the box. It is, one of those wish list items to get to. But there might be circumstances where you might want to go and configure and build your own menu items, for example. The other example is just combining processes. We might have specific menus to do specific tasks. Can you build efficiency if you can build, more specific functions? So we have a lot of customers that build variations of work lists. So like system-directed functions in the mobile device will give the user, once they complete work, they'll just give the user the next work. But in some cases, we've got customers that wanted to allow a variation of a work list. They can see all the work and then execute based on variations of work lists. So those are all types of things that you can configure by building a new menu item in the warehouse. All right. So this is where we can get into switching and having a look at a few different sort of parameters. So these are probably nuts and bolts sort of things of things that you might want to consider. They're not things that may apply to everyone. You'll have to sort of test your conditions and what you need and based on the volume that you have and stuff like that. But they are parameters or things that you might want to consider relevant to sort of performance and configuration of the warehouse and in inventory processes. So a lot of this content and some of the screenshots one of our developer put together. So a lot of the content's relevant for there in terms of our back-end support guys when they've had issues and done troubleshooting and worked out sort of suggestions of things to sort of how to improve. So that's why there's probably some code screenshots. It's not necessarily meaning you have to make a code screenshot, but it's just pointing out where codes probably gets triggered, for example. So I touched on this a little bit before, and I've included a blog post reference here to Leonard. He's one of our developers in the warehouse management team, deals with a lot of the custom, obviously builds the warehouse management, but if you have a support case, likely Leonard's probably been one of the back-end developers that's tried to solve or build some of the features to improve the capabilities. So one of the things here, for example, is some parameters around transfer orders. And I think if I get this right. Okay. So again, a lot of this sort of comes from experience running into customers. Now, you may not run into it, but you might want to just get familiar with some of these things and test them during your implementation phase, for example, because it may sort of consider, it may be something that you might want to sort of consider through different configurations, for example. So one of the ones I want to point out is if we go into receiving, so for example, this parameter, which is transfer order receiving processes, if you don't do a lot of transfer orders, maybe this is not too much of an issue for you, for example. But we do have a parameter here to be able to split the registration and the receiving process. And so, that gives you the ability to actually split that the inventory's actually arrived, but delay the receiving process. So it just separates out and breaks up some work. So if you can logically work with some of these parameters in your process, maybe there are things to sort of try in terms of improving some performance and optimization. So if you do use this parameter, what you'll essentially need to do is do the receiving part of it. So what you'll find is that there is a batch job, and I'm going to forget where it is. Transfer, update, receive. So obviously I won't go and run the batch job, but so you'll find these, and it is noted in that particular blog post, for example, the usage of this parameter. So essentially, if you're using transfer orders and you want to improve that performance, you might want to consider that transfer order receiving split process, but it means that you'll need to handle the receive process, and therefore there is a batch job to allow you to do that, for example. Okay, so location directives. So there's a sequence of what happens in the iteration of finding location directives, and looking at things like location profiles, if we're going to use location profiles for filtering, those sort of things. So you might want to sort of understand that flow, because that gives you an input to what's happening behind the scenes when a lot of these queries run. So if you can think about the process, it might help you in defining some of the queries. So for example, when we're looking for locations, the way the system's designed, we have joins, and if we define queries, for example, filtering by item to find fixed locations to find the actual location, those queries may run slower than other queries if we can give a more directed input to how the system could find locations, for example. So we often see customers with performance issues around usage of fixed locations, for example, because we've got lots of fixed locations, and therefore we've got lots of queries and location directives to go and try to filter those out and find them. So again, you may have some special cases, but consider the usage of it and consider the performance testing of these as you go through. So at the end of the day, essentially what we're trying to encourage you to do is again, think about doing less. So we have, when you pop out that query, you can join to tables. So those queries can get quite complex. So obviously, if you're looking at, for example, looking up inventory stock, and then trying to use based on inventory dimensions, those are going to get quite complex sort of queries to actually run. So if we're looking up invent sum, which is essentially almost invent on hand, then it could take a long time for them to run. So if you think of, we're releasing 1,000 orders in a wave, let's say that there's 1,000 lines. Each one of them is going to be a pick and a put line. I'll keep it simple without a grouping. Then each one of those lines is going to end up creating a need for a location. Therefore, we're going to run this 1,000 times to find that location for each piece of work. So you've got to think of those patterns of, as each of these processes go through, what do these conditions really do to that overall load and performance in the system? So, test them and consider them, and challenge the business rules about what is it that what do we need to do relevant for the process. We've talked about like empty locations. If we can sort of filter based on no locations or no inventory. Again, consider the performance considerations. So you might want to consider the sequence of the query. What is it going to find first if you do those tables, for example? Volumetrics. So we do have the ability to use volumes. So when you When you go and look at the item setup, if you need to find locations based on volumes, you do have that ability to go and use the warehouse load capability and use the volumetrics. So again, just different conditions, because locations and that query when the Weve runs just takes a lot of work to go and execute in the system. So we do have some new features. This one's coming in 10.03. So this will help exclude locations when we're mixing sort of constraints. And so this is shipping in 10.03. But again, just to point out that we've seen a lot of issues with customers around performance around these things. And so we're trying to observe that through our back-end telemetry as well as support requests and support calls to identify how do we improve some of these performance. So obviously we'll try to add features where we can, but what we're trying to balance the giving customers capabilities and features to configure business processes, but obviously you can shoot yourself in the foot to build a complex process and end up. So yeah, mixing constraints is a new capability that's coming. So again, location directives. So consider all of the capabilities. Consider the amount of constraints that you add on location queries. The work creation log. There's quite a few different places in the system where we can do logging. So you'll see these logs and parameters in the warehouse management areas. So one of the things to sort of consider is the usage, and do you really need to log? So there is a log to log location directives. You're going to find out that it didn't find a location because the work will be created without a location. So do you need to use the log to go and look for that history, or can you can you live without the log and turn it on in a test environment, for example, to test those conditions? So consider the usage of those work creation logs and all of the different sort of logging activity that you're going to find in the warehouse. So choose when you might want to use it. I think this one's bingo. All right. So seasonality, as the last point sort of points out, we may set up rules to work in the normal course of business, but some rules may not work in seasonal situations. So consider the usage of potentially tweaking rules or having sets of rules that might need to be applied for certain items based on seasonality. We have customers that ship many different types of products, and Black Friday is an issue if we're more in those sort of retail, sort of e-commerce support, supply sort of customers. But we certainly have other customers where the typical sort of holiday sales come up, so there could be seasonality all throughout the year. So we might want to consider that we have conditions that we'll tweak throughout the year, for example. So outbound transfer flow. So this is essentially the sort of sequence that goes through from a warehouse to the in-transit warehouse to a receipt location. We have a lot of transfer orders, typically in retail. And so we've seen a lot of performance-related issues around transfers because if I have a distribution center, I'm going to use transfer orders to potentially redistribute out to the warehouses, which are the stores, for example. So essentially, I'm using transfer orders to do that replenishment of the store activity. So typically in retail, we might have a lot of transfer orders because we've got a lot of small stores, so we need to do a lot of distribution. So we've seen a lot of conditions where transfer orders, you might want to consider the flow. We talked about this split condition there. So we've seen, for example, SQL query type blocking situations when we release the ship confirm. So Essentially, the process is we release, we allocate items, we do a replenishment, we pick work, work's put at the back door, and then we do a ship confirm of the transfer order, for example. So you might want to look at a few different parameters in the system. So let's say, for example, I go to transportation management, and we go into setup here. So you'll see, for example, I've got my loads, and so what I have the ability to do is enable the split of the transfer order, shipment, confirmation, and transfer order posting. So essentially I can confirm the shipment, but I'll do the confirmation later, for example. So you may want to, similar to that other parameter we talked about before, this is at the end time in terms of finalizing. You may want to split up those type of functions if you can, and delay the confirmation to later, because we have seen sort of blocking processes, and we'll hopefully tune them better in time. But obviously, if you can use some of the parameters that we have, not sure why I'm getting the buttons mixed up here, but okay. So blocking in Weve release, and again, we're pointing these out, not to say that we have blocking with every SQL blocking and therefore performance issues with every customer, but you want to be aware of them to consider your circumstances and therefore tune. Where you can, and use different parameters, for example. So we do use application locks to synchronize allocation based on items and dimensions. So we see blocking, for example, in waves, and that's why we're sort of talking about strategically looking at how you do waves and how you're releasing them to the warehouse, because if we're running waves in parallel and we're generating work, we potentially could end up blocking ourselves based on the sequence of work that's being generated in the system. So replenishment is typically a culprit for this if we're doing Weve processing and we're doing replenishment, because essentially we're looking at the inventory and the dimensions and the locations to run through the system there. So consider those types of things in terms of sequencing and organizing work. So reservation, so again, another load on the system in terms of doing inventory and working through the inventory records of the system. So there is a few different ways that inventory can be reserved. I can obviously reserve inventory when we put in the sales order. I can do that manually. We can use the automatic reservation parameters. Obviously, each customer is different in terms of their needs. We have customers that put in orders 3 weeks ahead of when they actually ship, for example. So if we start reserving 3 weeks ahead of time, for example, that may end up with conditions where customer A order comes in 3 weeks, but customer B order comes in 2 weeks, but customer B has a higher priority. Now we need to consider unreserving order A and allocating it to order B, for example. So that's where we have the ability to reserve when we release to warehouse, for example, but consider that that's extra work for the warehouse that needs to run through the system, for example. So we will potentially do locking as we're running through, because we need to reserve that inventory as we're running through. Again, another reason for sort of separating waves, so we're not having too many waves running in parallel, for example. Blocking for picking work. So essentially, again, the process of looking for work and locations when we're generating the picking work and updating the picking work, especially around transfer orders. Again, looking at the sequences of the work and how you've grouped work and put them out. What we see, for example, is the system, when users have got picking work and we're putting it into a put location, we've created some conditions where we end up blocking the ability for the user to actually put. And so we are working on a feature, and because my machine crashed, I don't have it up here, but let me open it up and I'll point it out. So if you are seeing sort of conditions around, SQL blocking around the picking and finding put locations, then let me connect, otherwise I'll just explain to you what it is. It may not connect. All right, so there is a feature that's coming which is essentially a process to defer creating the put location. So there's a new process that's in the system. So the work will get created and the pick location will be allocated to the work, but then you can come back later and delay the put location. So that's something to look out for in some of the updates if you have that. So I can't log into my machine, so I'll skip that. We talked about the ship confirm processes and separating those because essentially, we're updating, and so we may lock invent sum, for example, invent sum being our, one of the tables related to, tracking inventory on hand. So there is a lot of situations where we could end up with SQL blocking. Obviously, if we do have blocking, then that starts to make the system pretty sluggish because we're waiting for different processes to finish. So really consider that sequencing of work, especially with waves and replenishment, and consider some of the separation of those processes. Because they'll impact the ability of the system to sort of get through that work quickly, for example. Warehouse performance recommendations. So the concept of parallel waves and waiting for locks it impacts the item allocation. So a variation of what we've been talking about. So you'll see some parameters down the bottom. So set up in warehouse management, for example, so the process the waves in batch. So you want to consider those so we can internally best use the locking capabilities. You will see that there's a wait time that's on that parameter. It might be a little hard to see in the screenshot, but I'll avoid switching over. And so if you do configure those parameters, you really want to carefully consider how long you're putting in there because if you put in a really big number and there is waiting going on, the system essentially will sleep if it finds a block condition and therefore potentially could get kind of slow. So you really want to test those parameters relevant to the conditions that you've got. There is a blog post there around the usage of that. So I mentioned a little bit earlier the usage of license plate controlled. So again, every time every inventory dimension is used, obviously that's extra inventory transactions that need to be created in the system. So the more transactions we try to create, the more work the system needs to do. So in the case of transfer orders, for example, you may not need to use license plate tracking in the in-transit warehouse because it's unlikely that you're really going to do anything with that inventory in transit. So consider turning off those to be not license plate tracked, for example. So the transfer order split the shipping and confirm. I touched on that one a little bit before. So when we do the splitting, we don't actually touch the inventory, so we avoid some blocking. So again, there could be some parameters there that we help avoid some of these situations where we have blocking. Question?
Disabling license plates in the transfer in transit, what if the store wants to be able to do license plate receiving? Is that a challenge?
So I didn't set up the sequence of the process, but we still have the license plate information. I should probably post a blog in terms of what happens with the sequence, but
Lose track of that license plate because everything that's in that license plate they want to be able to just one scan kind of receive.
Sure. Yeah, we should do a post in terms of what happens with the whole overall flow, but yeah, thanks, Rob. All right, so something you might want to sort of consider is we have a lot of customers that look at obviously managing warehouse, and we look at viewing on hand. So I need to go and release these orders. Do I have inventory for them? So I look at on hand, or we have customer service reps that look at on hand, for example. So you might want to consider just something simple, which is the sequencing of how you actually do those filters, for example. So potentially that could be quite a performant hit on the system, for example, if we don't include site and things like that. So you want to consider the usage of those parameters, because otherwise the system needs to do a lot more filtering. So it can be quite an expensive hit. There is a stored procedure that runs in the background to do some of that work, and so it may not be enough for it to execute quick enough, for example. So I mentioned this sort of in the beginning, the usage of, for example, load planning workbench. Consider the processes in terms of, for example, releasing stuff, in whether you can use batch processes versus the user executing, for example. Cycle counting from mobile devices. So if you use the full capability, we try and find all of the items in a location. And so we know we can improve there in terms of we don't have good criteria to search, only for location, for example. So one of the things that you might want to do is make sure we're running the cleanup jobs. So in the system, under inventory management, for example, you'll find cleanup jobs, and so you'll find things like the on-hand entries cleanup, these sort of jobs. So you might want to make sure that we're considering running these on a regular sort of basis as they clean up, the back-end data in the system, which helps some of these processes. Alrighty, so switcher. Not doing very well at bingo today. So really think about causes that may cause blocking situations. And really we've tried to point out the common patterns of things. It really happens around waves, it happens around replenishment processes, the location searching, for example. Those are really common places where we end up with blocking performance type problems, for example. If we can configure splitting work processes, whether that's using the processes or whether that's just your organization of work, and so those things really help. And so maybe the clear last one is configure only the processes that you need. So again, think about while there is a lot of capabilities, do you really need to use those to implement a business process? Even before we had the advanced warehouse management capability in the product, we had some pretty sophisticated warehouse users using WMS1 in our solution, because they could get by with simple processes. The warehouse workers didn't need mobile devices, those sort of things. So I'm not saying that applies to every customer, but really consider the usage of features, because not necessarily more parameters or more features help in a business process. So we really want to keep a business process as simple as possible to help the users and avoid some of these. So performance around reducing searching for queries. Be more precise in searching for queries if you are going to use queries, because we have queries in work templates, location directives, all throughout those different sort of setup things in the warehouse. So really consider those. So some of the things that we've talked about in terms of fixed locations and consolidations, for example. Performance, so consider those processes in terms of like purchase, for example, the receipt process, splitting around Cycle counting, do we really need to do that in the course of regular picking work? Some customers may want to do that, and it is a capability that I can do cycle counting mixed up with regular picking work. But is it really needed as part of the work process, for example? And so we mentioned the on-hand inventories. There are quite a few other batch jobs that you'll find in warehouse management. Not necessarily just the on-hand cleanup. So you want to look at these inventory ones down here, and you also want to look at in warehouse management some of the periodic processes that you'll find in here around, for example, if you are doing the keeping a work creation log, cleaning up that history. So a lot of cleanup jobs that are worth keeping on a regular sequence if you really don't need that history, because a lot of it is only there in the context of processing a particular task. So a lot of it's not needed. It's just data filling up the database, for example. All right, so there is and where we've sort of done blog posts and there's a decent sort of blog post about how to do some of these. I've included in the slides. The slides will be up there for the presentation, so you can point to some of those and get some of the more background. So that's pretty much about what I was going to try to cover this afternoon. Try to give you a little bit of tips and tricks around warehouse management processes and sort of how to customize some of the configuration to better perform. I will point out Leonard's blog that's at the top. He created a new blog where he started to post some of these issues that he finds with customer issues. So keep an eye out for some of the stuff that he's posting up there. If you have to do the support relevant to warehouse, I'd keep up there. But some of the other blogs, there is the Yammer feedback group. If you're interested in some of the new features coming with warehouse management, keep an eye on that blog. Again, there's a couple of the features started to creep in, like the defer put. You'll find that in the previews at the moment, but there are other capabilities that we're adding that will help improve customers' life going forward. So with that, I might wrap it up. Appreciate you sitting through almost at the end. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, almost as it is. If there's any last minute questions, happy to hang around and answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let you make the long walk back if you're going back to the keynote or whatever. So yeah, thanks very much.